The story begins with the echoes of help requests coming from a building. A girl, completely naked, screams for help, her voice trembling with terror. She is chained and her eyes are blindfolded. She frantically says that she can no longer feel her legs. Panic rises in her voice as she asks what is happening to her body. A monstrous creature resembling a rabbit has cut both her legs. Blood splatters across the cold floor. The girl collapses, trembling and weak, surrounded by her own blood. The rabbit beast then picks up a scalpel, running its blade lightly across the center of her abdomen. The girl shrieks in agony, begging for her life, pleading not to be killed. But the creature says that he will not kill her. Her part in the game is just beginning. It then makes another shallow cut across her belly as her screams echo through the dark, empty building. In the next moment, some students are whispering about something that will not open. A boy asks Ryuji to calm down, while Ryuji replies he cannot calm down at this moment. Meanwhile, a boy awakens with noise. A girl sitting nearby tells that Hayato is waking up. Her name is Yuzuki. She asks if he is alright. Hayato bluntly wakes up and gets amazed to see Yuzuki and the other guys from the middle school. He weirdly asks others where they are and what is happening. Suk explains that they had all just regained consciousness. He says they were returning home from school when something suddenly attacked them. Hayato, confused, wonders what kind of attack it was. Then a girl named Akari says that this must be a kidnapping, someone has taken them all hostage. Ryoji adds that all 7 of them were forcibly brought to this place. Hearing this, Kazu begins to tremble with fear. Suk claims it might be revenge for something they did, which makes Hayato and Yuzuki turn toward him in shock. Shirori shouts in confusion, wondering who would bring all 7 of them here. Hayato glares at her. She then tells Suk to stop lying, bursting into tears as she says they should have been more alert when the incident happened. Akari tells her to stop crying like a child, what's done is done. Yuzuki calmly suggests that instead of panicking, they should focus on finding a way out. Hayato agrees, saying that perhaps Shirori is right, but before he can finish, she goes silent. Just then, Suk points toward a large LCD screen mounted on the wall and says that maybe there's no way out of here. Suddenly, the screen lights up, and a figure appears, a man wearing a rabbit mask drenched in blood. The distorted voice on the speaker says, "Welcome to the death game." Akari stares at the screen in horror. The man, known as Mr. Bunny, explains that all of them will participate in 6 deadly games. Only those who survive each stage will move on to the next room. They must clear all 6 levels if they wish to escape. He warns them that they have only 1 hour before the entire building is destroyed. As the timer begins to tick, Hayato and Yuzuki listen in terror. Kazu's face goes pale, and fear fills the room. Suk mutters that he has heard of such things, buildings destroyed within seconds, reduced to dust. Yato, listening quietly, says that if they fail to escape within an hour, they'll all die. Suk suspects it might be a bluff, but Mr. Bunny orders them to approach the door and enter the first game. Hayato stands frozen, thinking this might truly be an act of revenge. Akari turns to Ryoji and asks what they should do. Ryoji insists he won't be treated like cattle, he'll find his own way out. Shirori yells for him to wait, but Yugi steps forward angrily, saying he'll deal with that rabbit himself. Akari follows him, saying she'll go too, and the two head toward the next room. Yuzuki asks Hayato what they should do. Suk answers before him, saying there's likely no escape, they've all been kidnapped, and the only way forward is to do what Mr. Bunny says. With 57 minutes left, he suggests they move to the next level. Shirori and Kazu nod in agreement. Hayato looks at Suk, calling him Mr. Former Student President, hoping it's all under control, but Suk says this is no time for jokes. He also remarks that they haven't seen each other in 2 years, perhaps fate has brought them together again. Hayato glances at Akari and Yugi, joking that it feels like they're still dating, though he never thought he'd see them again. Yuzuki gazes at Hayato sadly, and he notices the emptiness in her eyes. When he asks if she's okay, Yuzuki forces a smile, saying she's fine, just cold. Hayato points out that she looks pale, and she softly laughs, reminding him that he hasn't changed, he always worried about her when she was sick. He blushes and scratches his head awkwardly. Suddenly, a piercing scream fills the air. Hayato and Akari turn toward the sound and freeze. A girl's naked corpse is tied to a chair. Her lips are stitched shut, her legs severed, and a metal rod is impaled through her abdomen. Kazu stumbles back in shock as if the sky has fallen on him. Yuzuki's eyes widened in horror. Shirori trembles, asking where the girl's legs have gone. Suk steps closer and says he smells gasoline coming from her body. Akari shrieks with fear and Kazu starts trembling. Before anyone can react, Mr. Bunny appears on the screen and explains the rule. He tells them that the girl is still alive, but only for 3 minutes. He explains that they have to save her in the given time. And the chair she's sitting on will ignite, and the dynamite inside her stomach will explode if they fail to save her. Hayato's eyes widen in disbelief as the 3-minute timer begins. Everyone stares at the mutilated girl, realizing that if they can't save her, she will explode before their eyes. Her stitched mouth quivers as if she's trying to scream. Suk shouts that they have to hurry. He runs toward her, reassuring her that they'll save her, but as he reaches her, he sees her arms have been sewn to the chair, her skin torn and bloody. Shiori screams, and Kazu freezes in terror. Suk yells for something sharp to cut the wires, but Yuzuki shouts that there's nothing in the room. 30 seconds pass as everyone searches frantically. Then Riwi kicks open a door. The girl, despite her sewn lips, tries to speak through muffled cries. Hayato looks at the timer, only 1 minute left. He says they must pull her free immediately. Kazu and Shiori stare in horror, but Hayato insists, saying she'll die anyway if they don't act. 48 seconds remain. Suk says they must hurry and do it in one go. Hayato grabs the girl's arm and pulls, the wires tearing through her skin as she writhes in unbearable pain. They both pull with their full might and succeed to free the arms. 37 seconds left. Suk shouts for a little more effort. 5 others watch in frozen shock. 31 seconds. The sight is unbearable. Hayato asks how much longer it will take. Only 18 seconds remain. They pull harder and manage to free her arms. Suk passes a smile and says that they can save her. Only the 13 seconds remain. Suk shouts that there's no time left, they need to pull to the other side. As he grabs her arms he gets shocked to see wires passing through back and thigh. 11 seconds. 10 seconds. Suk looks at the timer and realizes it's too late. He yells for everyone to move back and pushes Hayato away. The girl clings to Hayato's arm, begging with her eyes for help, but 7 seconds remain. Hayato steps back helplessly as she writhes in agony and requests for help. 3 seconds. Yuzuki pushes the girl behind. She grabs Hayato's arm and asks him to hurry. The time ends and the beep starts. The girl falls from the chair just as the dynamite detonates. The explosion tears through the room. Hayato and Yuzuki are thrown backward as fire and smoke fill the space. When the flames fade, Hayato gets scared to see the girl's body lying shredded, her intestines and blood splattered across the floor, her eyes blasted from her skull. Everyone stands frozen, paralyzed by what they've witnessed. For a moment, it feels as if the world has collapsed upon them. The girl's body, now charred and lifeless, lies before them, nothing left but ash. Hayato stares at the remains, his mouth open, unable to breathe. He looks at her lifeless eyes on the floor and blames himself. If he had acted sooner, maybe he could have saved her, but now, there is no saving anyone. Suk tells Hayato that no one blamed him before, and no one blames him now. Shiroi agrees, saying Hayato is not at fault, it's no one's fault at all. Hayato looks at the screen where Mr. Bunny appears again. Mr. Bunny says that it's unfortunate what happened, but those who remain can still clear the game, even if they fail again. The only point is that they must continue to participate. Hayato yells at Mr. Bunny, calling it a disgusting joke. Mr. Bunny calmly replies that since they already failed in the tutorial, it seems unlikely they will survive until the end. The word tutorial shocks Kazu. Mr. Bunny explains that the first round was only a warm-up, and after this it is the real death game. Suk asks what he means, and Mr. Bunny says the death game starts from round 2. Everyone stands in disbelief. Mr. Bunny warns that if they don't take the game seriously, none of them will survive until the 6th round. Then, the next room door opens. Mr. Bunny tells them to move to the next room. Hayato stands still, staring at the burned body, realizing it's now their turn. He feels that they might end up like her. Akari screams that this is madness and that she refuses to die like this. Suk reminds her that the building will explode in 1 hour anyway. If she doesn't move, she'll still die, so there's no time to waste. Akari agrees and says fine, but Ruji reminds everyone that they shouldn't lose to each other. He says they are better off alive and unhurt than like the dead girl. Ruji declares that he won't die sitting still like her. Akari looks down sadly. Then Ruji turns and asks her if she's coming with him. Akari runs and grabs his arm, following him into the next room. Hayato watches them go and thinks that Akari has always followed Ruji's lead. He feels slightly relieved that at least everyone else is still alive. Suk keeps everyone focused, Shirori always supports honesty, and Kazu stays mature and responsible. As for Yuzuki, she seems to be the one most affected by what happened. Hayato reflects that he never thought he would face such a cruel death game. He realizes that if they keep doubting each other, things will only get worse. Suddenly, flames start spreading nearby. Suk shouts that the fire is growing, and they should move quickly. As they enter the next room, it looks almost identical to the previous one. Hayato observes that the setup is nearly the same. Suk nods, noting only the extra glass cases. Ruji walks toward the door and calls out to the screen, demanding Mr. Bunny to explain what to do next, but no answer comes. Hayato suggests that maybe they need to pull the levers. Yuzuki warns that acting without knowing could be dangerous, and Hayato agrees. Suddenly, an arrow shoots across the room, grazing Hayato's cheek before sticking into the wall. Yuzuki gasps and asks what's happening. Hayato gets a sudden shock when he sees it. Suk and Ruji look around angrily, wondering where the arrow came from. Suk spots a crossbow machine in the corner locking another arrow. Ruji points out another one on the opposite side. Shirori panics, saying the first room was safer and suggesting they go back. She tries to open the previous door, but it won't budge. Another arrow flies past, slightly cutting Yuzuki's leg. Hayato runs to her and asks if she's okay. Yuzuki winces, saying this is getting dangerous. Then another arrow narrowly misses Akari and lands by Ruji's foot. Hayato says they must dodge the arrows, that's probably the second round's challenge. Suk agrees and says there must be a way to escape. One arrow hits the glass case but bounces off the wall instead. Ruji notices the deflection by the glass. He quickly tells Akari to get inside the case. He opens the door and steps in himself. Ruji says if he pushes from inside, maybe it will open another exit. Akari shakes her head, saying it won't open again. Ruji looks confused and shocked when the door locks behind him. Akari tells him that at least he's safe there. Suk adds that once the case closes, it can't be reopened, meaning only one person can use it for safety. Akari listens carefully, and Shirori says she wants to try the second one. Yuzuki interrupts, saying she will use it first. Hayato tells Yuzuki to wait, but Akari ignores him and pulls the door open. Hayato glares at her. Akari quickly steps inside and smiles faintly, relieved. Shirori says there's nothing more they can do now. Suk says they only need to dodge the arrows until it's over. But suddenly, the arrow machines stop firing. Hayato frowns, wondering why they stopped. Akari and Ruji both look around. Akari glances upward and screams when she sees a fast-spinning rotor blade descending from above. Ruji also stares in shock. Mr. Bunny's voice fills the room again, saying it's time to explain the rules for round 2. He says the two people in the glass cases are the candidates for this round who ran first to save themselves. Akari and Ruji silently look at him. As the rotor runs fastly and comes down, Akari shrieks. Rabbit mentions that the rotor blades will keep coming down until they are both shredded. However, there is one way to save themselves, one of them must sacrifice the other. If one person pulls the lever on the floor, the other's blade will descend faster, but the one who pulls will slow down their own blade slightly. When one dies, the other's machine will stop. If neither pulls the lever within 3 minutes, both will die. Mr. Bunny declares that this is their choice, sacrifice or die together. The second round begins. The rotor blades start lowering quickly. Akari screams for them to wait. Ruji punches the machine's walls in panic, but nothing happens. Akari yells to Suk outside to help them. Suk shoots arrows at the glass, but they can't break it. He keeps trying, but the surface doesn't even crack. Hayato also tries, desperate to do something. Suk watches helplessly as Akari screams, the spinning blade is inches away. He fears she will die horribly, her body torn apart. Hayato refuses to let that happen. His mind flashes back to a memory, the day on the school rooftop when he confessed to Akari. She rejected him, saying she liked someone else. He had walked away quietly, humiliated, while she mocked him from behind, saying she could never like such a boring guy. She wanted someone more handsome. Ruji, who had been sitting nearby, overheard everything. Akari froze when she realized he heard it all. She told him she only wanted to be like a shining idol that everyone admired. Ruji said he wasn't interested in fake beauty and liked people for their good hearts. Akari blushed, speechless. After that day, she met Ruji, who accepted her true appearance. Now, as the blade descends, Akari's eyes fill with tears and fear. She can't do anything. She cries out that Ruji has always listened to her, always been there. Ruji yells back, unable to hear her clearly. Akari grabs the lever and pulls it, saying she won't die so easily. Ruji shouts for her to stop, but acid sprays from tiny holes near the lever, splashing onto her face. She screams in agony. Ruji and Hayato also shriek with this shock. Akari placed her hand on her face and unfortunately her face got burned badly. Ruji's eyes widened to see her burnt face. Mr. Bunny's voice calmly explains that he forgot to mention something. Pulling the lever releases acid from the floor vents. Akari cries as her skin burns. Mr. Bunny adds that giving one's life for another isn't easy. Everyone outside stares in horror. Akari lowers her head, crying that the acid will scar her face. She blames Ruji for everything. Ruji, terrified, looks at her and yells that it's her fault. Their friends outside say Akari is only a victim, but she yells that Ruji should die for her instead. Ruji remains silent for a while and kneels by the lever, saying if he saves a girl it seems hypocritical. Then an idea comes to him, he pulls his own lever. Acid splashes over his hands, and he screams in pain. The blades keep descending. Akari shouts at him to stop. But Ruji refuses, saying he doesn't want to die. Akari then quickly removes her shirt and places it over the vent holes, pulling the lever again. For a moment, she thinks it worked, but acid seeps through the fabric, burning her face even more. She screams in horror as her skin melts. Kazu and Shiori cry out at the sight. Hayato watches, stunned, realizing that two people who once cared for each other are now fighting to survive, destroying one another in the process. He punches the glass again in rage, but it doesn't break. Ruji takes long breaths. He looks at Hayato through the glass and tells him to promise to kill that cursed rabbit. Hayato gets scared and listens to him carefully. Seconds later, blood splatters across the inside of the machine. Ruji's body is crushed into pieces. Suk, Yuzuki, and Shiori stand frozen in fear. Akari weakly smiles, thinking she survived. The rotor blade stops. But then, her body gradually collapses inside the machine. Her face is completely burned. Hayato stares at both glass cases, one filled with blood and flesh, the other with Akari's lifeless, scarred body. Mr. Bunny appears again, saying the round is over. He notes that both contestants are dead, but calls it retribution. He says they must continue the game, this still counts as a victory. He tells them to prepare for the next room. Everyone stands speechless. Hayato looks at the blood-soaked glass where Ruji died and wonders what kind of sin they committed to deserve such punishment. Fear spreads across his face as he realizes, maybe it's all because of that bus incident. On that day in the bus a little girl sits with her father on the very last seat. She asks him if they are close to their grandparents' house. Her father replies almost and reminds her to behave nicely when they meet them. The little girl, full of excitement, smiles brightly. Yuzuki notices her and says the girl is really cute. Shiori turns to Yuzuki and asks if she likes little kids. Laughing softly, Yuzuki replies that she absolutely does. Hayato looks at Ruji and teases that Yuzuki really seems to love children, but Ruji seems already exhausted. The bus ride feels just like any other ordinary school day. Everything seems calm until the little girl suddenly stands up to chase a cat that appears in the aisle. Her father shouts for her to sit down, that it's dangerous. Unfortunately, the driver loses control of the steering wheel. The bus swerves violently and crashes into a car coming from the opposite direction. A woman sitting in the driver's seat of that car falls unconscious as the vehicle spins off the road and falls downhill. The little girl cries out. The bus tires skid, and the bus itself starts sliding toward the edge of a cliff. Hayato and Suk are thrown against the seats as the bus tips over. Hayato thinks for a moment that it's just a small accident, but Suk shouts, asking if everyone is alright. Yuzuki replies that she is fine, but her voice trembles as the bus begins to tilt further toward the edge. Suk yells that the bus is tipping and everyone must get out quickly. The little girl's father, standing near the aisle, blocks their way and says, "Wait. I have to get my daughter." No one moves until I bring her back. He warns that if too many people get off, the bus will lose its balance and fall. He pleads with them not to move. Ruji, furious, shouts that the man is insane, that they can't stay here waiting to die. The man glares and furiously grabs a piece of glass. He warns them to get on the floor, otherwise he will cut their legs. All glare at him fearfully. Ruji rushes forward, punches the man in the face, and yells that their lives are at stake. Ruji and Akari leave the bus, calling back for Yuzuki to follow. But the man grabs Hayato's wrist and begs him to stay, tears streaming down his face. His daughter lies unconscious at the back of the bus. Hayato freezes, torn between fear and guilt. Suk shouts his name from outside the bus, urging him to hurry. Yuzuki blows an umbrella on the man's head. She calls Hayato to hurry. She reaches out her hand to him. Hayato grabs her arm instead and pulls her out just as the rear tires lose grip. Within seconds, the entire bus plunges into the ravine below. Heitao watches the sight with cold eyes. As the bus disappears into the depth of the cliff, they all stare in horror. Yuzuki starts trembling, whispering that maybe they killed them. Shiori tries to calm her, saying it wasn't their fault, that if they had stayed inside, they would have died too. Suk sighs deeply and says, "Does anyone know about the plank of carniades?" He explains that it's a moral theory. When two people are drowning and there's only one plank to survive, one must push the other away to live. He adds that, even if the government doesn't consider this a crime, their conscience and the victim's family might see it differently. Everyone falls silent. Hayato, staring at the ground, wonders if this is the punishment, that Ruji and Ayakari had to die because of what happened. Gripping his hair, he mutters that this was a terrible price for survival. He begins to suspect that someone else, maybe Mr. Bunny, already knew everything about the bus accident, maybe even someone among them. Just then, Mr. Bunny orders them to move to the next room. Hayato, gathering himself, thinks that instead of turning on each other, they need to stick together and survive. He only wants to make it home. Kazu looks at him strangely as they step into the next room. Inside, they see 5 glass boxes lined up, each with a large blade hanging above them. Shiori gasps, wondering what new horror awaits. Mr. Bunny explains, inside these boxes are different traps, one with hungry piranhas, one with giant centipedes, one with sharp blades, one with a gas burner, and the last one completely empty. Each box has a button at the bottom. Everyone gets scared more than before. Bunny instructs them that all of them must press their buttons at the same time, and no one can pull their hand back until the last button is pressed. They must use bare hands only, no sleeves or protection. If they fail, poison gas will be released into the room. He does not explain the massive blade on the ceiling. They have only 1 minute. The timer starts ticking. Hayato's eyes widened with terror. Suk shouts that there isn't much time. Yuzuki nervously asks who will press what button. Kazu steps forward, saying there's no doubt, he'll take the empty box. Hayato warns him there might still be a trick, but Kazu snaps angrily, yelling that he trusts no one now. He mocks each of them, calling Shiori heartless, Yuzuki fake, and Hayato a coward for abandoning the man on the bus. Yuzuki protests, saying they all push together, but Kazu insults her too, calling her two-faced. Desperate, he says he doesn't want to die like Ruji and Ayakari. Hayato listens to her selfishness. The timer shows 31 seconds left. Suk says to let Kazu do what he wants, but Shiori insists they should cooperate. Hayato agrees that the task seems easier than before. When only 22 seconds remain, they decide to do it together. Everyone rolls up their sleeves and puts their hands inside. Kazu puts hand quickly and presses his button first and laughs. The empty box was harmless. Suk reaches into the piranha tank. The fishes tear at his skin as he screams but manages to press the button. Shiori thrusts her hand into the centipede box. They coil around her arm as she shrieks but completes the task. Yuzuki's hand burns from the gas flame, but she also presses her button through tears. Suk yells for everyone not to move. Hayato struggles. Only 15 seconds remain and blades slice deep into his arm as he tries to reach the button. Blood pours from his wrist. Shiori screams for Hayato to hurry. Hayato grits his teeth and groans. Only 13 seconds left. Suk shouts at Hayato to do it quickly. Everyone is already in pain. 8 seconds left. Everyone yells for him to do it. 6 seconds. Hayato ignores the pain and pushes harder. With 2 seconds left,
he finally slams the button. Mr. Bunny's voice echoes again, "Congratulations. You passed." They exhale in shaky relief. Suk and Shirori smile faintly, exhausted. Yuzuki's hand is badly burned. Hayato looks at her in silent sorrow. Blood drips from his arm. But Kazu can't pull his hand free. Hayato and Yuzuki stare in horror. Mr. Bunny says coldly, "Didn't you learn from the last round? The selfish ones must clear an extra task." He tells Kazu that if he wants to live, he must press the button once more. Doing so will activate the top blade, cutting off his trapped arm and freeing him. He gives Kazu 30 seconds before the massive overhead blade drops. Kazu trembles as the blade above begins to descend. Bunny says his time starts now. Kazu whispers he cannot cut off his arm. Hayato calls out to him, saying that his life is worth more than one arm. Kazu shakes his head and yells that they are thinking Kazu is getting what he deserves. Hayato tries to console him but can't. Kazu yells that he is not dynamic like them and all he can do is follow along behind them. He can only run like a coward, so he deserves to die. Suk and Shirori look at him helplessly. Hayato places a hand on his shoulder and says softly, "They all bad people, but none of them said Kazu is worthless. And no one wants to die, so they should escape together." Kazu's eyes widen, but he still doesn't move. 8 seconds remain. He fearfully asks how he will play the next 3 rounds with one arm. "So it is better to die now." Hayato shouts, but Kazu closes his eyes. He then suddenly mutters he saw just the one doing this as one of them. Hayato gets stunned. 1 second remain when Suk suddenly shoves him back. The timer hits 0. The chain snaps, and the giant blade falls, slicing clean through Kazu's body. Blood splatters across the floor. Suk fortunately saved Hayato at the exact time. Hayato stares in shock, trembling. He recalls Kazu's last words. Hayato does not understand the situation. All are haunted to see the Kazu body drenched in blood. Mr. Bunny's voice calmly echoes again to continue to the next round. As Hayato looks at Kazu's dead body, he wonders how long this will keep happening. Suk calls out to Hayato and asks what Kazu said to him before he died. Hayato stays silent for a moment and thinks it's better not to tell the truth. He tells Suk that Kazu said he didn't want to die. Suk says okay. Then Hayato asks why he wanted to know. Suk replies that it's nothing, he just wanted to check something. Hayato looks at the 3 of them and thinks about Kazu's last words, that one among them is the real culprit. Hayato thinks maybe that was what Kazu wanted to say before he died. He remembers Kazu shouting that he saw something just before dying. Hayato wonders what Kazu saw that made him suspect someone from their own group. Suk, Shiroro, and Yuzuki stand silently. Hayato holds his head and says, how he even think that way. Also they are all victims here, there's no way any of them could be the culprit. Shiroro looks at him and asks why he is staring at her like that. Hayato says it's nothing and tells everyone they should move to the next room, as they don't have much time left. Suk says yes, he don't even know how much time has passed, but maybe they have only 30 or 40 minutes left. Shiroro agrees, saying they can't go back now, nor can they stop. They enter the next room and see 4 chairs with small holes in them. Each chair has a letter marked on it. Hayato wonders what these chairs are for. Suk says there are 4 of them. Suddenly, Mr. Bunny appears on the screen and says before he tells them the rules, everyone must sit on one chair. When they sit, place their hand on the handprint sensor. Once the sensors detect their prints, he will tell the rules. Hayato wonders why there are letters written on the chairs and what the purpose of the hand sensors is. Shiroro says it feels strange to have to sit on these chairs. Suk says there's no other choice now. They all, Yuzuki, Shiroro, Suk, and Hayato, sit on the chairs and place their hands on the sensors. Bunny announces sensors confirmed. Then he explains the rules. As Hayato puts his hand on the sensor, a metal lock tightens around his wrist. They all see this and panic as their hands are locked in place. Mr. Bunny says this is round 4. There are buttons marked A to D below your fingers, matching the letters on your chairs. He says now you must choose who among you is the most guilty. Everyone is shocked after hearing this task. Mr. Bunny continues, the person who receives votes will be punished. He shows them an empty chair. Hayato looks at the screen and sees sharp metal spikes behind that chair. He gets stunned even with eyes enlarged with fear. Shiroro screams in fear.
Yuzuki and Suk both look terrified. Mr. Bunny says even if one person gets only one vote, they will still be punished, or maybe all of them will die together. Suk listens carefully. Mr. Bunny says they have 3 minutes to vote. If they don't, they will all die. The timer starts. Hayato, scared, thinks they could all die even if one vote is cast. Scared, he tries to pull his hand away but fails. He yells at Suk, asking if there's any way to get free. Suk calmly says that based on the previous rounds, it's impossible to break the rules. Hayato asks what they should do. Suk says they have no choice but to vote for someone. Hayato becomes silent. Yuzuki says she can't choose anyone. Suk tells her if she doesn't, they'll all die in 2 minutes. Yuzuki says fine, she will vote for herself. Hayato looks at her in shock. She says she can't bear to choose someone else, she would rather sacrifice herself. Shioro calls her name, but Hayato yells that it's not right, he doesn't want anyone to die and use it as a sacrifice. Yuzuki oddly looks at him. Shioro says they have no other option. They have to choose and it's every person for themselves. Also if they don't choose, they'll all die from poison gas. Hayato looks at her with wide eyes, unsure if he should vote or not. Suk says they don't have much time and that everyone must make their own choice. Yuzuki stays silent. Shioro then tells Hayato, she will vote for him. Hayato is shocked and asks why. Shioro tells Hayato that she heard something between him and Kazu, didn't he say that you were the culprit? Hayato is speechless. Suk and Yuzuki both look at him. Hayato quickly says no, she heard wrong. Suk says if she heard wrong, then what's the real truth? Hayato yells that there's no time to explain, only 1 minute and 10 seconds are left. Shioro shouts that he's the one who told Mr. Bunny everything they did, so he should take responsibility. Hayato asks why he would do that. Shioro says she's sure he was the one who sent the apology letters to the victims' families, and he always acts like a hero in front of Yuzuki. Hayato can't believe what he's hearing. Shioro screams that she'll vote for him because everything happened because of him. Hayato realizes he can't convince her now. He asks Suk to say something. Suk apologizes and says he can't do anything either. Hayato gets stunned by his words. He tells Hayato that he's not accusing him but they still have to choose someone. Hayato gets stunned to see their opinions. Shioro suggests to Suk that he should vote for Hayato too. And if he sacrifices himself, the rest of them can live. Yuzuki stays silent. Hayato thinks no matter who they choose, someone will die. Mr. Bunny announces 5 seconds left and countdown starts. They all look at each other and then at the countdown. Without speaking, they all cast their votes. The votes lock in. Mr. Bunny says to check the screens behind their chairs. The person who received 1 or more votes will be punished. Hayato turns his head and sees 2 votes against his name. Shocked, he looks to see where the other votes went. Shioro received none. She smirks and says she told them if they voted for Hayato, only he would die. 1 vote went to Yuzuki and 1 to Suk. Shioro asks Hayato why she is the only one with no votes and who voted for him. Hayato mentions he voted for himself. Yuzuki says she also voted for herself because she couldn't choose anyone else. Shioro asks Suk if he voted for himself too, saying that's like suicide. Suk apologizes, saying he didn't know what else to do, there was no proof against anyone. Then he says, Mr. Bunny never said that the one with votes will die. Shioro listens carefully. Suk continues, he only said those with votes will be punished. Shioro smiles slightly. Suddenly, Mr. Bunny says punishment time begins. Long, sharp spikes shoot up from under and behind Shioro's chair, piercing through her body. The others scream in horror. Shioro doesn't even get time to cry out. Yuzuki screams loudly as blood covers the floor. Hayato watches in shock. Mr. Bunny says the punishment for those who received votes will live to see their friend die, and the one who got no votes will be punished. Hayato yells in anger. Mr. Bunny says he warned them that selfishness leads to death, calling them sociopathetic and useless. After Shioro's death, their hands are released. Mr. Bunny tells them to prepare for the next round. Hayato is in shock, staring blankly. He asks Suk if he knew this would happen. Suk screams that he didn't, there was no way to predict it. Suk holds his head and says if he had convinced Shioro earlier, maybe she'd be the only one alive now. He shouts that they can blame him if they want. Hayato listens calmly. Yuzuki's eyes fill with tears. Hayato goes to Suk and says, he is not blaming him, nor will he. They're all at fault. He says if they had decided faster in the first round, they could have saved that girl. If they hadn't competed in the second, Ruji and Akari might still be alive. If Kazu had sacrificed his arm in the third, he wouldn't have died. He continues, if in this round they hadn't thought of sacrificing friends, they could have all survived. Everything backfired, just like the bus accident. He says at that time, they could have saved the little girl and her father. Then he goes silent. Yuzuki strangely looks at Hayato. Hayato says in a weak voice that they won't make more mistakes now and that he knows how to survive the next round. Suke and Yuzuki both look at him with hope. Hayato thinks he can trust them and also believes Kazu was wrong, none of them are the culprit. He will prove it. After that, he walks toward the next room. As soon as Hayato opens the door, the three of them reach the corridor. Yuzuki looks around in surprise. Hayato's eyes move toward the window, and when he opens it, he realizes that there are iron bars blocking the way out. He calls out loudly, asking if anyone is there. Looking down, he sees only mountains and forests, with no lights anywhere. Suke tells Hayato that the door looks like an exit. Hayato turns to see a door tightly locked with thick chains and a large padlock. Looking at the lock, Yuzuki suggests that if they find the key, they might be able to escape. Suddenly, Mr. Bunny says they are right but also wrong. Yuzuki weirdly looks toward the screen as he explains that 2 games are left and the climax is here. He announces rules for round 5. They all weirdly look at Bunny. Bunny adds that among them, there is one traitor. He mentions that round 5 is to find the traitor. Hayato, Yuzuki, and Suke stare at the screen in shock. Mr. Bunny tells them that their weapon lies behind the counter, an old axe, rusty but still sharp enough to kill. Then he starts a countdown of 20 minutes, after which the building will explode. The round 5 begins now. Suke, frustrated, says he is tired of these cruel games. Hayato insists that there is no need to kill anyone. Yuzuki says that they should find a way out and run away instead. Suke agrees, saying it looks like an old hospital building and suggests that they split up to search faster. Hayato disagrees, warning that splitting up would be dangerous. Suke argues that time is short, and they cannot waste it. Hayato finally agrees. Suke picks up the axe and asks if he can take it. Hayato questions why he needs it. Suke replies that he doesn't want Mr. Bunny to use it against them. He tells them not to worry because he has no plan to join the round or harm his friends. Yuzuki smiles with relief, and Hayato says he also doesn't believe any of them is a traitor. He tells Suke he trusts him. Suke nods and says they must hurry and shout if something goes wrong. Yuzuki warns them to be careful. Then they split up. She goes upstairs to the 2nd floor. Hayato stays for a while and glares at her. Then he moves toward some ruined rooms. He thinks whether he should find a key or something to break the steel bars. As he walks, he notices blood seeping from under a door. Shocked, he hesitates for a moment, realizing he cannot waste time. He opens the door and sees severed legs lying on the hospital bed with no body attached. His eyes widened with horror. He gets stunned to see legs and think they might belong to the girl from the first round who was sewed to the chair with metal wire. Feeling nauseous, he kneels and coughs, struggling to control himself. He thinks he will look in the room and get out. He goes to a lamprey thinking that the condition of the girl shows that the rabbit must have hated her more than them. And there should be someone involved in it besides them. He feels something is still hidden that they don't know. He finds nothing in the almirah because the culprit did not leave anything behind. Then suddenly he listens to some thrust. Quickly, a thought strikes him. Yuzuki is upstairs. Leaving everything, he runs toward the 2nd floor, calling her name. When he arrives, he sees Yuzuki's shirt open and Suke on top of her. Hayato shouts at Suke, asking what he is doing. Yuzuki rushes to Hayato, trembling, and says that Suke suddenly attacked her. Hayato looks at Suke in disbelief. When Hayato asks, Suke tells him to stay calm and claims that Yuzuki is the traitor. Holding a small remote-like device, he says it was hidden in her clothes. Hayato asks about this device. Suke explains that it's a remote with video control buttons, possibly connected to Mr. Bunny. He says Mr. Bunny never spoke to them directly and always communicated through video. That video was not real. Yuzuki would wait for the right time and press the start and stop buttons. Yuzuki angrily claims Suke is lying. She also blames Suke for having it all along. She yells at Suke to tell Hayato the truth. As Suke is about to pounce on her, Hayato tries to calm them, asking Suke why he suspects Yuzuki. Suke replies that Mr. Bunny had never said something directly, only once when Yuzuki was talking, which made him suspicious. She spoke exactly to the script that is the proof. Hayato insists that this could just be a coincidence and says turning against each other is exactly what the game master wants. But Suke continues, saying the recordings prove Yuzuki's connection to Mr. Bunny and Rabbit is actually Yuzuki. Hayato looks shocked, wondering if it could be true. Suke shows the proof. He says the death game is an automated spread and he does not know if she has any backup, but she is in charge of it all. Yuzuki yells that she is not the part of this. Hayato gets confused and ponders if someone is lying. Sometimes he thinks there is no way either of them will lie. Suke demands the keys from Yuzuki, saying they can end the game now. Yuzuki angrily asks why he keeps accusing her and what his real motive is. Suk stares at her coldly and says that whatever her purpose is, she should put it aside, but if she tries anything dumb, he won't spare her. He tightens his grip on the axe. Yuzuki shrieks with fear. Suk strikes with a yelling that he will keep cutting her until he gets the key. Hayato steps forward, trying to stop him, but Suk swings the axe and it hits Hayato's back. Hayato gets a severe cut on his shoulder. Yuzuki screams as Hayato stumbles forward. Suk tells Hayato to stay out of the way. Hayato urges Yuzuki to run, saying Suk is after him. Yuzuki glances at Suk, then escapes. Hayato grabs Suk and tries to calm him, saying they should think clearly. Aloe says if she is a traitor this is not the way to handle it. Suk accuses Hayato of protecting Yuzuki because he has feelings for her. He gives a forceful elbow to his belly and pushes him away. Hayateo shrieks with pain and sits down. He calls Suk to stop but he does not listen and goes away to find Yuzuki. Hayato realizes Suk has lost control and decides to stop him somehow. Anyhow he walks with the wall and remembers their promise to survive together. As he walks past a room, he hears a faint voice, Hayato. She tells him to look his way but stay without looking back. Hayato stares at Suk going in another direction. She requests Hayato to believe in her truth. Yuzuki says that if things continue like this, Suk will kill them both. Hayato admits he doesn't know who is lying but doesn't want to lose either of them. Yuzuki calmly confirms and says she'll run toward the first floor, and Suk will chase her. She tells Hayato to wait by the stairs and push Suk down when he appears. This is the way to get the axe. Hayato hesitates but agrees. He warns her to be careful because if Suk catches him he will not spare her. Yuzuki passes a smile and asks him to believe in her. Moments later, Suk runs through the hallway. Suk watches her running. He quickly runs to chase her and pushes Hayato aside. As he turns the corner by the stairs, Yuzuki sticks out her leg, and Suk trips and falls down hard. His axe slips from his hand. Hayato rushes down the stairs. Hayato feels bad for him. Suk lies badly hurt, trying to get up. She says he is calm and collected but he made one mistake in the end. Suk amazingly looks at her. Hayato calls out, telling Yuzuki not to do it, that in this death game, those who kill end up dying too. But Yuzuki ignores him, picks up the axe, and strikes Suk's head. The blow is brutal. Blood splashes as Suk's eyes widen in shock before going lifeless. Yuzuki says she told him over and over but he did not stop. She passes a smile to Hayato. Hayato starts shivering and watches in horror as Suk's head splits and his body lies covered in blood. Hayato shouts and asks why she did it. Yuzuki says she wanted only him to know the truth and that she had given him hints all along, but he was too slow to understand. Hayato trembles with terror. She tells him not to be angry and congratulates him for reaching round 6 without sacrificing anyone. Hayato stares at her, frozen. Yuzuki says they should start the final round, only 9 minutes are left. Hayato sits beside Suk's lifeless body, trembling, and screams, asking why Yuzuki killed everyone. Yuzuki laughs coldly and tells him that she is not Yuzuki. The voice, the face, everything is a disguise, created through plastic surgery. Hearing this, Hayato freezes in disbelief. His mind floods with memories, the time when he first asked Yuzuki if she was feeling well, and the moment when Kazu, during his final breath, told him that the killer was among them. Hayato quickly pushes up the sleeve on the woman's arm and sees that the burn marks from round 3 are missing. He realizes that these scars Kazu saw and now that the real killer is figured out. The woman reveals that her name is Okazaki. She is the wife of the man and the mother of the little girl who died in the bus accident. Hearing this, Hayato is stunned. Okazaki explains that Yuzuki was her cousin and she gathered information about them from Yuzuki. Through that information, Okazaki created a trap. When Hayato asks where Yuzuki is, Okazaki tells him that he already saw her during the first round. She was the girl tied to the chair, the one whose legs were cut off. The realization hits Hayato like a shock. The girl who had begged for help, the one he left behind, was Yuzuki. He screams in horror and disbelief, asking Okazaki why she did this. Okazaki's eyes are cold as she says that it was revenge. She begins to tell her story, explaining that as a participant of round 6, he deserves to know the truth. After finishing high school, Okazaki proposed to her teacher, Hiroki. Her parents disowned her, refusing to accept the relationship. The two eloped, got married, and started a new life together with their daughter, Mio. When Mio turned 3, Hiroki suggested they visit her grandparents. Okazaki was hesitant, but Hiroki revealed that he had been in contact with them all along. Every year, on Mio's birthday, they would call and ask them about her. Okazaki was moved to tears when she heard that. Hiroki hugged her gently and said that next week, during the holidays, he would take Mio to visit them. Okazaki wanted to come, but Hiroki insisted she stay home and rest because she was pregnant with their second child. A week later, Okazaki received a phone call from Hiroki. When she answered, all she heard were strange noises. "Everyone on the floor, I will cut your legs." Shocked and terrified, she listened closely. Hayato gets stunned. She says the sounds were faint. It was mostly like an accidental redial from an accident. So she heard everything that happened on that bus. Hayato listened silently, horrified. Okazaki explains that she contacted Yuzuki afterward, demanding to know the truth. Yuzuki, crying, said she knew nothing and hadn't seen what happened. She also told Suzuki that they had been out of contact for years, but more importantly she wanted to ask something. She asked Yuzuki if she did not talk to Hiroki. Yuzuki refused. She again asked if she did not notice Hiroki and Mio when they ran off the bus. Yuzuki consistently refused. That answer enraged Okazaki. She accused Yuzuki of lying, grabbed her by the neck, and forced her to admit her crime. Yuzuki kept denying it, trembling in fear. Okazaki started weeping, overwhelmed with sorrow, and fell to the ground. Blood began to flow from her abdomen, and she lost the child she was carrying. Okazaki looks at Hayato with tearless eyes and says she lost her entire family because of them. Hayato looks at her. She swears that she could never forgive Yuzuki, the cousin she talked about love with. She yells that Yuzuki knew how much she loved Hiroki. She confesses that she watched revenge methods every day until she finally found one that worked. She contacted an organization and used all her money to build this death game. Laughing bitterly, she says that she was the one who cut Yuzuki's legs off because Yuzuki was a coward who refused to admit her guilt. She recalls how she pressed Yuzuki's throat. Enraged, Hayato throws Okazaki to the ground, and strangles her, shouting that Yuzuki wasn't a coward, she lied only to protect the others. He insists that everyone who died was kind and innocent. His grip tightens so much that his nails dig into her neck. He screams that Okazaki is the real coward and she is wrong. Suddenly, he stops. Okazaki gasps for air and says that she knows everything she did was wrong, but she still believed revenge was the only way. Then she laughs weakly and tells him that round 6 is about judgment, her own judgment. Hayato looks at her in shock. Okazaki explains that the building will explode in 5 minutes, and the final round is to get the hold of the key to the exit. When Hayato demands to know where the key is, Okazaki touches her abdomen and says she swallowed it a few hours ago. She tells him to take the axe and cut it out of her, so he can feel what it's like to kill someone. She says it's not a trap, it's the truth, the final lesson. Hayato shouts it's worthless and asks if this is what she wants. He steps back in disgust, saying he's tired of all of it. He grabs the axe and runs downstairs. Okazaki watches him silently. He quickly runs and with 5 minutes left, Hayato goes to the door. He thinks he can't let her confuse him anymore. He swings the axe at the locked door, striking the heavy chains again and again, shouting that he won't die there. The chains barely move. Okazaki comes behind him and says it's useless, the axe will break before the lock does. Hayato yells for her to shut up, saying he doesn't believe anything she says. He strikes again, and the axe handle breaks. The metal head flies off and grazes his neck, drawing blood. Hayato feels bad for it. Okazaki smiles faintly and tells him that he never sacrificed anyone, but he never saved anyone either. She calls him the true coward, someone who had the chance to save Hiroki and Mio but didn't. Her voice shakes as she cries, saying she will save at least one person. When Hayato asks who she means, Okazaki smiles faintly, places the broken axe head against her throat, and says she will save him. Hayato shouts. Before he can stop her, she cuts her own neck. Blood bursts from the carotid artery speedily, and she collapses to the floor, dead within moments. In no time she is drenched in blood. Hayato screams in shock, falling to his knees. He doesn't understand what is happening anymore. Then the system voice echoes, announcing 60 seconds left. He suddenly remembers Okazaki's words about swallowing the key. He kneels beside her corpse, staring at the axe blade, frozen in thought. Then he grabs it and drives it into her abdomen, whispering that he doesn't want to die. Covered in blood, he digs through her entrails, searching desperately for the key. His hands tremble, drenched in crimson, but he keeps cutting, refusing to stop. Finally, he finds it, the small metal key, slick with blood. As the time ends, something blasts and explosions begin to shake the building. The walls crack, the ceiling collapses, and every room they pass through falls apart. The entire structure begins to crumble. Hayato runs outside, throws the blood-soaked key onto the ground, and collapses in exhaustion. He whispers that this was the worst moment of his life. He crawls into the forest, trembling, and finally breaks down, crying uncontrollably. The next day in the hospital, Hayato says that he does not really remember walking or where he went. He was found wandering around the mountains. And he still does not know about the organization who helped Okazaki with her game, that they could still be out there, staging these games and shaking the country. Also, the reason he survived was not because he was in the right, it was just because he was the last clinging to the Carneades plank. Hayato weeps bitterly and feels very upset. He thinks, all people are forced to make impossible, life-defining choices until their dying day.